So since ancient times, large civilizations have unwarrantably viewed Jews as a threat to their stability. The Romans, under Emperor Nero, for example, ignited the first Jewish-Roman war in 66 CE, which forced the Jewish majority in the province of Judea, modern-day Israel, to flee, beginning the Jewish diaspora. Aimlessly wandering through the expanse of Afro-Eurasia, the Jews were rejected by most other civilizations. In 1182, the Jews were expelled from France by Philip II. In 1290, the Jews were banned from residing in England by Edward I. In 1492, the Sephardic Jews were kicked out of Spain by Ferdinand and Isabella. For centuries, anti-Semitism had shaped Jewish life, forcing many into distinct communities, such as the Venetian ghettos during the Middle Ages. However, the repressed Jews stuck together, uniting, combating the omnipresent anti-Semitism with an unmatched dedication to practicing their religion. The Jews withstood the tumult of time by maintaining their trust in their religion, in God and in each other. Thus, the long history of anti-Semitism has made the Jews very community-oriented. Moreover, as anti-Semitism led the Jews of medieval times to strictly study Torah, the Jewish community has ever since embraced intellectualism, fostering great intellects from Rashi and Maimonides to Spinoza and Einstein. Lastly, as a result of the anti-Semitism in Europe during the latter part of the 19th century and the early 20th century, as seen by the pogroms in Russia and the Dreyfus Affair in France, the Zionist movement was founded by Theodor Herzl. This significantly altered the Jewish identity by renewing the prospect of finding a haven in Palestine. And so, after perhaps the most ardent display of anti-Semitism in history during the Holocaust, the Jewish community came together to reclaim their ancient home, thus ending the millennia-long diaspora. The Jewish identity today revolves around opposing the same beast that forever altered it, anti-Semitism. Today, college campuses are plagued by anti-Semitism as students at universities all around the country have been found openly discriminating against Jews or drawing swastikas on public buildings. Fortunately, I have not experienced anti-Semitism, as Pinecrest is quite safe and contains a large Jewish community. However, as an emerging college student, it is very disconcerting that I may potentially face anti-Semitism in some form. However, as the Jews throughout history have ardently fought against it, I intend to do the same.
As a Jew, my DNA dictates that I act as a voice for the oppressed. This year in particular, speaking up is imperative when so many are being targeted by hate and intolerance. Whether Muslim, African American, LGBTQ, or Jewish communities are threatened, we as Jews must have a voice and show zero tolerance for hateful behavior. I have been in religious school for my entire life, and from this I have learned how important education is to the eradication of ignorance and indifference. From our Jewish history, we can see what ignorance does to a community. Jews learned about oppression from our enslavement in Egypt, the Inquisition, and of course the Holocaust. Staying quiet when a community is being threatened is not an option. I educate people through clubs at my school and even just through conversations in class. Now it is our turn to voice our teachings and finally get rid of the ignorance that has devastated so many families and communities. As a Jew, it is my responsibility to raise awareness and be involved in constant discussion. I will never forget the importance of education.
The institutionalization of ideas tends to occur when people of similar thought systems congregate, whether they are part of a religion or a cult. The idea that a cult would attempt to enlist Jewish college students is as disregarded and overlooked as the urgency of independent thinking at a young age, yet both are unsuspectingly significant. The first step to overcoming a threat is to not only face it, but to acknowledge its existence. Cults are more prominent than many people think, and when you see the influence of a single leader like Sun Myung Moon, the risk of naivete is put into perspective. Many false prophets will use a multiplicity of techniques to hook unknowing students. Going forward with life through confirmation and adulthood, everyone must be made aware of this. For students especially, skepticism is vital to remain aseptic. Independence and self-direction should be valued when faced with any foreign belief system or disguised deceit. The importance of questioning is also relevant when considering Israel. When Jacob in Genesis wrestles with a shady figure, the dark individual says, "For you have struggled with God and with human beings, and you have prevailed." The figure then proceeds to rename Jacob Israel, which literally translates to God contended, or wrestles with God. The significance of the word Israel reinforces that we should not only question religious institutions, but wrestle with all that we are told. Jacob's story is the reason that I can say I do not agree with racist criticisms of Ethiopian Jews' validity. I believe that women should have an equal space at the Western Wall, and I think that the physical universe was created by the Big Bang. At the same time, Israel has many more aspects worthy of admiration, including the fact that they are one of the most progressive nations on earth, despite their small population. Personally, my individuality has sustained me in a world that tries to suppress conformity. In the words of Ralph Waldo Emerson, to be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. I trust the Talmud and rabbis of the past who have created a religion based on morals and values, and I am forever questioning all sides of the story as Jacob did. Anything is possible. I feel more connected to Israel than ever through these thoughts. The quality of eternally being alive burns bright among people who rightfully question and probe. It exists among the people who turn to the Torah for guidance on how to live, and it is present among the Ethiopian Jews who now have a safe home. Gary Eisenberg and Rabbi Kempler, both in different forms, prove the power of individuality when it comes to safety, connection, protection, and acceptance. Thank you.
Tonight, I am conferring my commitment and dedication to Judaism. I am a vessel of God by believing that there is only one God and that God exists within me and all around me, such as in my home, school, on the court, field, and in the car, making sure that everything I do stays with God. Also demonstrates that I'm a vessel of God. I think that it is cool that I'm a Jewish person living in today's world. For me, being Jewish means practicing and carrying our fun, sometimes not so fun traditions. For example, performing good deeds or mitzvot is important to me. Ever since I have been able, I have done mitzvot, and I will continue to perform these as I proceed through the game of life. However, being Jewish also means dealing with anti-Semitism and hate in today's world. Unfortunately, these horrible challenges have existed for a very long time. Throughout this year, I feel I have received some value takeaways. First of all, I feel more of a connection to Israel and hope to be able to go visit there someday. I also find that I really enjoy the Jewish culture, especially the music. Last but not least, I learned more about our Jewish values and lessons, such as humor and how it relates to Judaism and performing mitzvot. Everyday tasks can have a connection to Judaism. Being a Jew has many responsibilities. One responsibility is being a steward of the earth. Just as a referee conducts a sport event to keep order in a game and protect the players, we, as Jews, must protect the earth each and every day. Rules are implemented to keep our planet as safe as possible. We can do our part by going green, such as recycling water bottles instead of throwing them away in the garbage. There are several core values that influence choices that I make. They are honor, caring, and perfecting the world through Tukin Olam. I honor my family, especially my parents. They are the ones who provide me with guidance as I go from base to base, through the curveballs and the line drives of life. Although I might not always agree with them or expect their advice and words of wisdom. In our family, we try to treat everyone, including our dog, with honor and respect. Caring governs my daily choices, especially since I'm growing up with a sibling who has a chronic health condition. This value is carried through my day-to-day options, whether at home, school, on the court, or field, or being counselor at summer camp. Finally, perfecting the world influences my choices. For example, volunteering at Give Kids the World Village, a place that allows kids with life-threatening illnesses and their families experience an expense-free long Disney vacation, brings happiness to these children and their families as well as me. I know that I'm making a positive difference in their lives.